Hi, I'm Kris Oldland, Editor-in-Chief of Field Service News, and welcome to this sample from our most recent webinar. We ran this session in partnership with eBECS, and I was very pleased to be joined by both Michael Smythe and Alice Walton, who showed some real in-depth knowledge not just of the Microsoft Dynamics for Field Service solution, but also of the industry in general, and how to get the best out of an FSM solution. We also looked at how the system works. We had some great demos, including the mobile part of the app as well, so great to see how all the pieces fit together from the back office to the piece that's in the engineer's hands. And we also had a great Q&A as well at the end, which is what this sample is taken from. Now, if you'd like to see the full webinar, it is available to Field Service News subscribers, so you do need to be a subscriber to Field Service News. However, the good news is subscription to Field Service News is complimentary for anyone that's a field service practitioner. So if you are involved in the management of a mobile workforce, a field workforce, then all you need to do is click the link below and you will be sent a copy of this webinar either to download or to watch online, entirely up to you. Plus you'll get access to all of our other resources and industry discounts, etc. But let's have a look at the selection from the Q&A.
Okay. You mentioned a short implementation process there, Michael. And Alice, when you were giving your presentation, you mentioned when you gave an introduction to the accelerator pack, I think the quote was you can reduce implementation time by up to 100 days, which is pretty significant in terms of, obviously, the sooner a company is up and running, the sooner they're going to start seeing return on investment. I just want to come back to that figure a second. Is that based on kind of real life use cases? Is that a kind of a best figure, or is that kind of an average figure? And how exactly do we achieve that? Is it just simply because there's less? You've already done the thinking for your clients, I guess, with the accelerator pack. Maybe you can just give me a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before, it's based on our industry experience. So we've actually implemented field service projects for customers. So what that's actually given us is the ability to see which features they need to be able to utilize, and we've actually built them into our accelerator pack. So this actually enables the delivery days to be reduced because we've actually already put in a lot of that functionality that the customer requires on top of Microsoft Dynamics 365 for field service. So a lot of those features, that we've added into the product have actually enabled our customers to save time, because as part of the project we haven't then got to go and implement those features over again. And also as part of that reducing of days, we've actually got implementation artifacts such as project plans and various other methods that we actually use to reduce those delivery days in terms of implementing a field service project.
Okay. Is that something that, obviously, you've mentioned the decades of experience and the ability to draw on that. Do you see as your role essentially as to guide your clients as they come in? So if somebody comes in and says, "Look, we want to do it. We want to do ABC," and you say, "Well, actually, it might be better doing BCA." Are you quite firm in that approach, or do you have a look? We can do whatever you guys ask for. Where's the balance for somebody wanting to work with eBECS?
Yeah, so that's probably one for you, Michael, if you have to take that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if we were to boil down our approach into a nutshell, it would come down to two words, which is product first.
Sure.
There are all kinds of implementation methodologies, project management methodologies out there. We have a whole host of consultants that are qualified in Prince2, in Agile and Scrum and all the rest of it. And Microsoft has its own delivery mechanism, which is called SureStep, which we follow. However, the overarching ethos is something that we've embraced at eBECS, which is called product first. Product first is a step change, really. What used to be that with Dynamics-led projects that they would be seen as kind of XRM projects. We would come in with a tool set and say, right, we can achieve anything that you want. Just tell us what it is you want and we'll go away and design it and then we'll deliver it. Yeah. Whereas the expectation now, especially with the way that Dynamics 365 as a platform has been created is that there are these line of business applications that are out of the box designed to do a very significant percentage of what you need to do with a small amount of configuration to be able to make them work for almost any business. Now, obviously, there's going to be, that's a sliding scale. Out of the box might be 100% perfect for some people, and it might be 60% perfect for others. It depends on the use cases involved. However, with this kind of product first mindset, what we do is we sit down with the customer at the beginning of the engagement, do a series of workshops which have two goals. The first one is to educate the customer, so to get an understanding of what is feasible, what is possible on the platform, and to be able to educate them so that they can make a determination based on a real world knowledge set, a knowledge set not based on an old system or how things have always been done and therefore that's how they should be done. A mindset which is, okay, this is what's potentially capable, how much of this can we bite off right now, and how much can be bitten off is dependent on a whole host of things, not least how deep people's pockets are and the appetite and the capability for change within the business. So that's the first one. The second one is for us to be able to understand from the customer what their requirements are and to be able to discuss with them, and this is where we have this, take on this role of what we term kind of a critical best friend, to be able to say, right, you've defined these objectives for go live, the processes that support those objectives, are all of them absolutely critical for go live? If they are, let's have a look at where they sit within the product. So is the out of the box functionality capable of supporting those processes? And if they're not, if there's a gap, what do we do about that? Do we determine that it is something that's absolutely critical for go live and therefore a piece of customization work needs to be done, or is it something that doesn't have to be critical for go live, can be put on the back burner on a backlog, and to be reviewed in a subsequent phase? And when I talk about phases with customers, often the mindset is this could be months and months between phases. We break our projects down to very small, quick phases of delivery, which have this huge advantage of being able to get the product out of the box, fully supported, in front of the customer, delivering as much of the benefit realization that they want as quickly as possible. And what that does is it gets users on board, it improves business productivity much more quickly, but it also means that when they come back to this backlog list of things that was critically important day one, suddenly find out that half of them, or 75% of them are less important, and in fact the way that they can be achieved might be a different, more efficient way of achieving those end goals. So it puts the customer in the driving seat in terms of being able to have full knowledge as to what they can ask for. And it wasn't that long ago that things like connected field service using Internet of Things and machines talking to machines was pie in the sky. This is stuff we can deliver out of the box these days. Being able to educate customers to see where these technological advantages are possible and then being able to deliver them as quickly as possible whilst keeping customization to a minimum is essentially the core ethos for us. Now, the firm hand bit comes in a little bit because we will always do what the customer asks. Don't get me wrong. We will, if the customer's, says we have these defined work packages that need to be done and this customization needs to be done in order to achieve them, then fine, we will do it. But we will always advise and push back to say that give your users the chance to use the product out of the box first with configuration rather than customization, and see if that can achieve your end goals, because after a short period of using it, your whole perspective can change. And that's essentially the ethos around our delivery.
Okay, and that brings us to the end of this sample from this latest webinar. My name's Kris Oldland. I was joined by Michael Smythe and Alice Walton for this webinar. And again, if you would like to see the full webinar, which I highly recommend, please do click the link below to apply for a subscription to Field Service News. As a gimme, just to say thank you for applying, you will get a copy of the webinar, links to either download or watch online. And if your application is successful, which is basically if you are managing a field workforce, so if you're a service director, a service manager, etc., then you will be eligible for the future resources, plus discounts that we do, plus invites to events, opportunities to take part in research, and a whole bunch of other things. So please do click the subscribe button there, complete a very brief form, and you'll be accessing future webinars in advance. But for now, thanks ever so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.